Truth be told, when I wonder what the future holds, it takes me out of the present. New moon waxing, full moon waning, crescent. Life cycles, teammates or rivals. Soul search, dangerous World War III, the goal's always survival. That's nature, day you're born when you meet your maker. Tears start chasing paper, burning trees or melting glaciers. But truth be told, when I wonder what the future holds, it's impossible to process, so I stay focused on my progress.
Yes, people. It's your boy Hots back again. Coming to the end of January. Started the year like I said I wanted to. So that's 4 in 4. It's not the greatest of days, I'm not going to lie. Arsenal, I'm not going to touch on it too much, but it wasn't a great result against United. Carrick's trying to do his thing. Like I said, I'm not going to touch on it, so I'm going to leave the Arsenal subject alone and just set it straight back to FPL. And yeah, can't complain. 4 weeks out of 4, like I said. Sorry to repeat myself, gentlemen, but it is what it is. Guffs in particular, I know it's your birthday month. Birthday's hours away. So sorry I had to do this to you, but the game's tough. But it's still a big act for your birthday and all of that. But yeah, since it's your birthday coming up, why don't we start with you? The birthday month's not been a good one, bro.
It's not been, man. And to be honest with you, you didn't do it to me, you did it to myself, really. It's been another horrific showing, and it's just, I mean, it's a weird game week all round, to be fair. You know, I'm sure we'll get into it later on in the show. A lot of the assets that have been doing well or doing well in the game haven't done well this game week. Another frustrating game week for everyone, I think. But obviously for me, I'm running out of game weeks to make any impact at all this season. It's been a completely frustrating year for me so far, and it's just, turning to be pathetic showing. But yeah, it is what it is.
Statman? Ark?
Yeah, I'm not as candescent about the game week as many. There were a lot of upshots for me. So I've started seeing some flickers around the strategy that I've put in place. But it's baby steps. So we'll keep going and going. We will get into it, obviously, but the biggest thing is that obviously Haaland blanked or got rotated, which meant the 7 million captains didn't have minutes out of their captain, which obviously has an effect. But if you were listening properly, some of you would have been able to take advantage.
There's been loads of gossip all of last week. Pep talking about resting Haaland as soon as he could, how he knows what he's going to do, he's going to change stuff up, blah, blah, blah. And we discussed on the show, Semenyo also being in a situation where he doesn't play Champions League. I noticed that obviously you went for Semenyo, I went for Semenyo, and it paid off. Again, when I've gone against Haaland, the person who I've gone for hasn't done exactly what I expected him to do. No bonuses, just the points of the goal. But I'll take it. It's still some points gained and a battle to climb. But anyway, interesting game week. I think we'll get into the next section, yeah. So in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the fixture swings and does fixtures matter? Also, things like how long to hold players in your team. We'll go into it properly, but before we do that, let's review our team week. Starting a few Guffs.
Boy, yeah. Honestly, before this show started, I was thinking, what am I going to say this game week that's different to any other game week that I've had so far? And it's
the sharp intake of breath was enough.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's a funny one. Like it started and, the news was filtering through about Haaland and Foden being benched. So that was already like, oh, here we go. And then when he was benched, of course, as a person that captained him, you're hoping that don't come on the pitch, or if you do come on, at least come on with some time to do some damage on the pitch. And I just knew it was going to end badly for me, and it did. The only sort of small light is that Semenyo could and should have got more. I think he had a chance in the first half and he hit the crossbar as well. So he could have had at least 2 goals in that game, which would have really crushed my game week against the likes of you and other guys that captain Semenyo this game week. But yeah, it was a really poor game week all around. Both strikers were on the bench. Ekatike was on the bench too. And it's just, yeah, it's very difficult at this point in the game to really keep any semblance of faith or positivity. When I'm trying to sort of make ground, I'm actually doing the opposite and going backwards. And that's the worrying thing, really. And it's you know, I went into the game with looking at my team thinking, actually, on paper, the team looks pretty good. You know, I've got a really strong first 11, got a good bench as well. In many ways, this could be a bench boost week because all my players look pretty decent. But for whatever reason, it's just not working out for me. And look, all we can do at this point is just to keep going, keep disciplined, as hard as that is. I did the wild card with a view of this is going to be my team going forward for the next sort of 5-6 game weeks. I've got some tweaks ahead, which I'm looking at, but yeah, it was a really, really bad and disappointing game week again.
Fair enough.
No, I think, well, a couple, but just to address where Gus was, I think that your team structurally is good. So when you think of blanking with Haaland, i.e. he does nothing for the week or whatever not, and other people have, usually that would create an acceleration point where everybody has gone far away from where you are points-wise. But actually that didn't happen, and that's more about the strength of your entire team. I think you are right about keeping consistency with it because the structure is there. Like, variance can happen, right? Like, Pep is Pep, so he can do this kind of rotation thing and like mess everybody up. And the kicker for it was really that he brought him on with 15 minutes to go. You kind of like, okay. But, you know, it's one of those things. But what I would say is that, like, from afar looking, I'm like, well, the structure is there, which allowed you to absorb that and still have points relative to what everybody else has got for the week. Personally, for me, I wouldn't be down on it. Like, and when I talk about my own team, I think I relatively got the same kind of point score, but it was an uplift for me because of where I was. So I went for Semenyo, but that was more because I played probability game with it. So obviously Pep had been saying what he'd been saying about Haaland and saying that, oh, you know, you need to rest. Marmoush was back. And then you look at the fixtures, which obviously ties in well to the theme of today's episode, right? But you look at the fixtures that are upcoming, and you think to yourself, well, actually, the only game that he's got out of the next 5 where I can see him rested him was against Wolves at home because of the opponent. All of the other games are either away or he's playing a harder or a historically harder game. So at that point, that was when I was umming and ahhing right until the last minute over whether I would do it and so on. It was only after I did it, then I started hearing about all of these rumours, but the deadline had already passed anyway. And yeah, and lo and behold, 7 million managers got royally screwed by Pep. But for me, looking at my team, I've still got risk or minutes risk issues, rather, with some of the people in my team. So for me, Gordon has to go now, because I've tried with him, but it's confirmation. Like, he's not completing 90 minutes. He's not passing the eye test, and then the data that's underlying it isn't backing him up either. I can see the other areas in my team where I'm struggling, so I still haven't solidified what I need to do around the back. And obviously there's still some movements that I need to make midfield-wise if I am going to get rid of Gordon. But overall, like a faint green arrow for me in terms of where my overall rank is, which ties in well with the strategy that I've got. And we'll go again. So baby steps, but we'll keep going.
For me, the main thing was, firstly, I took out Cunha for Semenyo. Obviously, Cunha scored, so did Semenyo. I haven't checked who got the most points, but like I was saying in the last episode, for me, it's long-term plan now. So where it's long-term planning, Semenyo was a long-term pick for me when Cunha isn't. So I still know and believe it's the right move. I think my 3 biggest things that was troubling me earlier in the week was, 1, do I start my Sunderland defender what's his name, Mikelele, Cash, or Hall, who was at home against Cash. And I was like, well, my third choice will be Cash. And my first choice would probably be Mikelele, even though I fancy Hall at home. But then I thought, Mikelele always gets assists or defensive contributions, so I'm going to go with him. And Cash got the clean sheet, and he was my first choice. So with that one, I was like, got that wrong. But Mikelele saved me because he did get an assist, so it's not that much difference. I think it's 2 points difference because Cash got no bonus. Then the two big decisions, the first one has to be like Ark, and like I said in the intro, the Semenyo shout. I just knew that he'll get 90 minutes. And even if Haaland started, he might not play the 90 minutes. So I was hoping he didn't start. And then I was hoping that he will come on so he can only get one. And everything that I was hoping for happened, apart from Semenyo getting more than one goal. But with one goal, I thought he would have got some bonus and he didn't. So that was disappointing. But it was still the better shout. So I'm happy with that one. To be honest, I heard about the rumours close to the deadline. And when I heard about the rumours, I was thinking, sometimes you hear these rumours and they're not true. But it made me think, you know what? I've been umming and ahhing about Foden all week. And if he's going to rest him too, because they've got a lot of central midfielders that they could play. And Rodgers hasn't done anything in a while. So if the rumours are true, I'd rather just throw in Rodgers because I think he can do something because he hasn't done something in a while, rather than thinking, let me play with the 4 City man that I've got. Because I was never going to take Haaland out of my team because he could come on 15 minutes against Wolves, that's what I thought at least, and score a couple of goals. So I wouldn't drop him, but I just decided to go with Rodgers. And the funniest thing is, I did that like probably on 59 minutes. So when I did the swap from Rodgers to Foden and I saved it, it then said updating. So I wasn't sure if it went through or not. I thought it did, but I didn't confirmation until my team was available. And then when I saw I did it, I was like, okay, now I just need to see the lineups at 2:00 to actually see if it's true. So when it was true, it was really nice to see. And Foden and Haaland got one. So as much as Semenyo didn't do as much as I would have liked, I'm more than happy with this game week for once. I was saying in the last episode, I don't think it's high points, but I want, in comparison to the average of the week, I want to be in a high scoring game week. So I guess I can't really complain. And obviously I got bragging rights out of us 3 this week. So that's nice as always. Let's wish that I keep this up in February and make it 5-time like Booker T. You get me? 5-time. So as I mentioned earlier, this episode's about fixture swings.
Fixtures, they can feel decisive, right? They can feel like you have to do it, and it kind of misleads managers and so on. Because if for instance, we've talked over the past couple of weeks where I've said that the structure of my team is bad in terms of I'm not getting enough hauls from the back. My goalkeeper isn't doing well. And so at that point, the fixtures don't really matter, right? Because I need to fix my team. If I've got the right structure in place, then I can start attacking fixtures. And I think that's something where people go wrong. And I guess I alluded to it just before, that you can look at a fixture run and say, okay, those are easier teams in there. But that then starts forcing you down the middle of, okay, I've got to make a decision. I've got to buy this player. I've got to buy that player. I've got to take a hit. Or maybe it forces you into using a wild card or going free hit, etc., that kind of thing. When really it's not going to solve the problem. It might do something for you on 1 week, but if you're still structurally not where you need to be and you haven't thought about the structure that you need to have in your team, then it's still going to come back to bite you. I guess I always look at it that the fixture is not going to create a point for me, right? The role that I've got is going to. So, because you can have a green run, but it's not going to fix it. It's not going to fix the fact that Gordon doesn't play 90 minutes for me. He's not going to fix the fact that Ekatike, his role, even though it's central, he's a minutes risk as well. Whether or not Liverpool have got a good fixture run, if I know that he's only going to be playing 60 minutes all the time, then actually maybe there's a better alternative than to go for him. Right. In the same situation from a tactical point of view, because if you've got a situation where like we've got with City at the moment, we don't know what Pep's thought process is going to be with regards to the players that he's now brought in. So yes, Gay is going to play, more because we know they've got injuries and so on. With Semenyo, it's now had an impact on Cherki. It's now having an impact on Foden. Like, does that continue? Now that he's got Marmoush back, what does that mean that he goes forwards with? So tactically, there's some uncertainty there. So do I load up on Triple C? Probably not. I will feel that I don't want to expose myself to that extent. I'd rather have just two and try and spread the value somewhere else. When I look at the fixtures, those kinds of things are now what I have in my mind because I've been burnt many, many times thinking I'm clever and trying to play it a particular way and then realizing well, actually it hasn't worked out like that. So sound like a broken record, but you've got to try and get some kind of confirmation for why you're doing something or why you're going to go ahead with a particular decision. It's the only way that we can make better decisions. Otherwise, you're just taking a punt and in 2 weeks' time, you're going to need to take another punt and another punt and another punt. And I guess the other thing for me is that fixtures, they matter more than people think when the role is locked, right? So, for instance, we know that Haaland is City's main output, right? If they're on a run, if they're going to have a complete run and you haven't got a Haaland, or for instance, let's say Salah is back and now he gets back into form and we know that he's guaranteed 90 minutes, it is something that you start looking at saying, well, okay, Liverpool have got a run. And actually, with what he's doing with his current output, this is something that I should be looking at that, yeah, he's locked. And also, the fixtures that you look at when they do matter is if you know what the game state is going to be. So, for instance, there are some fixtures that we talk about where I'll say to you, that's going to be a high volatility game because it's just transitions. Or we know, for instance, most United games, that's how United play. They're playing on transitions. They're not trying to suffocate people, right? So if they're going to play transitions and we know that they're playing a team that's particularly weak with crosses, like Everton, for instance, then you say, all right, let me see what I can do with that one. That's kind of how I look for whether the fixture is going to matter or not. And obviously you try to look for if there's a ceiling within a particular fixture as well, because then you can try and target who you know is high output from an attacking point of view. But that's the kind of thing that I look for.
Look, stats are a huge part of this game. You know, I think that I've said before, the people that play this game consistently well and do well are generally sort of grounded in some form of stats to underpin their teams. And I think that if you don't have some sort of statistical analytical approach to this game, you're going to find yourself in problems. But what I will say is that, you know, although stats are very important, they're just a part of the picture.
Even when you're going with narrative or the eye test, for instance, like Burnley have been one of those weirdly frustrating teams over the season where you know that they've got a high XGC, like you think that it's a fixture that, yeah, you'll go there and you'll just do whatever not. But they keep getting that plucky goal, which knocks out the clean sheets. So sometimes it's not, and we've got to remember that we're getting into that part of the season where the teams that are struggling are fighting for their lives, right? Because they're trying to stay in the Prem. So, which is kind of what you got with Forest at Brentford. Like you wouldn't necessarily think that that was going to happen because, like you say, Brentford are strong at home. So it's probably even harder just trying to go for narrative, like in terms of, okay, like this is a struggling team or whatever not. As we've seen recently, Wolves, they're a struggling team, but they don't look like they're going to concede as much as they were because the narrative is they've got a new manager, he's changed different things. And so I guess it makes it hard. And again, I would only say, like, we always need some sort of confirmation.
I'll be completely honest and say that it matters a lot less than it used to because, you know, I'll use examples. When I had Ekatike, I was looking at his fixtures and I was thinking this is the perfect time to go against Haaland. And Haaland had tougher games. And in those tougher games, Haaland didn't do anything. And I was hoping for Ekatike to come in and get like 5 to 6 goals in that period, and he got me an assist. He didn't really make use of those fixtures. So even this season, just looking at the fixture swings, it's proven to me that fixtures matter less. However, I'm still going with the approach of looking at teams and thinking, who would be the right player from that team? And I can't help it because that's how I've always been. But I'm also looking at the other things that I mentioned, if within the whole minutes, form, and fixtures.
I guess really what we need to look at is what decision windows are actually opening. So we've talked about what a fixture swing is. We ultimately were all coming to the idea that, well, it's a run that is favourable, etc., that kind of thing. So there are two at the moment that we've looked at across the fixtures where we say, actually, between game week 24 and 27, there's a window. And then from game week 28 to 31, there's another window. We've got to take into account as well that with some of these, the reason why there are two windows per se is because we don't know when all the double game weeks are going to be, when the blank game weeks are going to be. We won't know that until we go further into some of the cup competitions. But the first one for game week 24 to 27, that's what I would refer to as a transitional window. Like it's a short-term thinking type thing. Like, well, when I say short-term thinking type thing, it's short-term in terms of you understanding, does this affect my strategy in terms of, am I going to use chips, etc., that kind of thing. Some of the fixtures that we looked at, for instance, Bournemouth have got a run where they play Wolves, Aston Villa, Everton, West Ham. So the way you look at that is, okay, can I confirm any of the roles of anybody in Bournemouth? So Evan Nielsen, he's their main striker. Have they got another main striker? Regardless of who they've got Krupi, but he's always on the bench and he comes on as an impact sub. So we know Evan Nielsen is always the striker, for instance. So you can say, yeah, you can confirm that role. Because it's Bournemouth and we know the volatility that they have, you don't really want to restructure to bring in 3 Bournemouth players. So you look across their team and you look at maybe Tavernier, like, is he always going to play? You know his role, is he on set pieces, etc., that kind of thing. But the reason why that fixture run in particular is favourable is because of those teams, they're all in the bottom half of the table for XGC. They concede chances from wide, some of them centrally, that kind of thing. So it's useful to look for a Bournemouth attacker for that. The other window that we looked at was Chelsea. Everybody has alluded to it. If you go online, nobody stops talking about the fact that, oh yeah, get Palmer in, get this person, get that person. But what's the why behind all of that? The why behind all of that is they're playing West Ham, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley over the next 4. Again, fixtures that traditionally you would attack because, again, they're in the lower half of the table for XGC. At the same time, for instance, the Leeds, not necessarily the walkover kind of team that you would think of in the past. But that window that you've got with Chelsea, that's a ceiling window. That's definitely you go in for attackers there that you know are going to be consistent and they've got high shot volume, for instance, or they're involved in a lot of their chances. Right, so you kind of try to avoid comfort buys with it, but you try and make sure that you've got a settled role that you go for. Another one is Palace. They've got Forest, Brighton, they've got Burnley, and they've got Wolves. So it's either exit or hold. You don't really build your team around them, especially with some of the things that are going on with Palace at the moment. So they're still bringing players in. They're also in a situation where we've talked at length about it, that they've lost a number of their players. They've got situations going on around their manager. So it's quite volatile, but there is some upside that you can be looking for if you've got attackers that are steady there. So either centrally or, again, like somebody new that they brought in, a Brennan Johnson, that type of thing. So that's more like a liquidity window for you. Then also you're looking at Man United. They've got Fulham, Tottenham, West Ham, Everton. Like, it's attack only. Don't go for any defenders with it. And really you want somebody that's got secure minutes. And with United, against those teams, they concede chances through the central areas. So those areas obviously point you in the direction of a Bruno, of a Cunha, that type of thing. But again, that would more be about, do you have somebody in your team that can ultimately go out like for like? Because some of this isn't worth you restructuring your entire team. If, for instance, to get Bruno, you need to make 2 or 3 different changes, it's probably not worth it. The key thing is that it's not about action. It's about you just thinking around the fixtures and working out, okay, is there some clarity around why I would do this? If not, keep rolling with what you got. Don't feel compelled to make a decision. Like, yes, it's a fixture swing, but as you've alluded to, Hots and Gus, you touched on it. It's a fixture swing, but we're still forecasting. We don't know. Like, we can't say, yes, we're 80% sure that this is going to happen or that is going to happen. What we can say is the probability is that that will. And that's what a lot of this game is about, playing the probabilities. But that's your first transitional window, per se.
These fixture swings are just difficult right now. The bottom teams are actually performing really well. And we're now more than halfway through the season, so it's going to be interesting.
The second window that I was talking about earlier was game week 28 to 31. And I suppose that's like the acceleration phase of trying to take hold of a fixture swing, right? So we've got City that have got Leeds, Forest, West Ham, Crystal Palace. That's kind of the best swing in the window, for instance, because all four of those teams concede high quality chances. Like Leeds, West Ham and Crystal Palace are especially poor centrally. And then you've got City attackers, they're going to benefit from that, even if they have reduced minutes, which goes back to the point of what we were talking about, where we've got Pep Roulette and the rotation. So in reality, you'll probably see captaincy differentials from there. There's rotation risk, but the upside is going to dwarf it. Arsenal are also down on what we're looking at the moment as well. Now they're interesting because their games are against Chelsea, Brighton, Everton, Wolves. And it's more nuanced because none of these are particularly weak defensively. But Everton and Wolves still leak a lot of chances. So, for instance, Arsenal defenders, they gain a lot of value because you've got clean sheets and DEFCONs there. But the attackers, they're going to be a selective thing, depending on who you go with. We've spoken at length about the fact that we don't necessarily see a lot of value in some assets that Arsenal have got. So, for instance, Saka. But at the same time, the last 2 games, Saka has struggled. But before that, he'd had 6 games in a row where he'd returned something. So it is something to be looking at. Another one of the swings that we had down was Brentford, because they'll be playing Burnley, Bournemouth, Wolves and Leeds. Again, it's a structural swing, right? Because all of those opponents, their XG conceded is bottom half of the table, right? They've also got aerial weakness, which is another area that Brentford thrive with. So Thiago is good traditional centre forward per se, with a bit of speed, and now they've got a Torre that's come back from AFCON. So you've got your 2 wingers back into swing, and Sade, he's been consistent throughout the season. So their attackers always thrive on repetition and physical matchups, and that's what they're going to get in those fixtures. So really, like the key takeaway, I guess, when you're looking at things like this is that you just try to map swings in blocks, right? And you work out, well, okay, can I see upside in this type of structural move? And you can go with that. Because to the point that we've all been making here, like these fixtures have become very, very difficult to predict. Often it's easier to predict. I think there were a number of shows where all of our predictions always ended up being a Desmond. It was always like, yeah, I think that's going to be a 2-2. It's going to be a 2-2 because it's so difficult to predict where the fixtures are going. But you've also got to think beyond the next game week, right? And because that's one of the problems that people have with fixture swings. Like they focus on, oh yeah, I'll do this. And like I say, you don't want to expose your portfolio completely with your team. Like you don't really want to have, I've got 2 triple ups here and I've got 2 double ups there and so on. Because when those teams come against each other or one thing goes wrong in a match, if you're going to have a triple up, for instance, in your team, like if you have 2 defensive out of the triple up, you concede 1 goal and that's it. You've lost your clean sheets. They're all wiped out, like you're exposed. So you have to be very careful about the way that you're looking to target these fixtures if you are going to go with the swing.
So the fixtures for game week 24, there's a few interesting games, but obviously close to the heart. It's the Leeds at home to Arsenal, which I'm hoping for Arsenal to bounce back. Leeds have been in decent form, but it's a must-win for Arsenal now after the outcome of game week 23. So that'll be one where I'm hoping to get my double clean sheet back because I lost to Anak this week. To touch on another game that I'm looking at closely next week, that's the City away. Spurs are in a lot of trouble. Frank, hot no sauce. I don't know if he's going to be managing for that game. God knows. Frank's under pressure now. I liked him a lot at Brentford, but he's struggling. Spurs are struggling. But let's just keep it real for a second, yeah? And this isn't me speaking as an Arsenal supporter. This is me speaking it on the reals. People have said, would you have traded second for the Europa Cup? And my answer always was, no. I want consistency for my team, and finishing 17th doesn't make Spurs better than Arsenal for me personally. And, they got rid of their manager and brought in Frank. And now they're, 15th, 14th in the league, struggling to beat teams that are fighting at the bottom of the league. So for me, this game's important. And I think that Frank, and I suppose the Spurs players are going to be really trying to be up for that game with City. So I'm hoping they give Arsenal a favour. But going off on form, I don't know if they will. But I hope that if they are disappointed in what I've said, they go and do something about it. But yeah, the whole Frank situation will be interesting because God knows if he will be managing for that game. But I think that fixture is an important one for the league and for Arsenal.
Spurs Man City is a legacy game. Spurs have always done well against City in recent history. Whether they've been poor, good, they always seem to sort of get their best for Man City in a weird way. And a bit like West Ham and probably more Man United, this is a game that actually suits Spurs. We know Man City are going to be on the ball a lot, and City and Spurs can sit back and play counter in the same way United do. Of course, City come to the game in better form. There's no surprise if City win the game. But what I'm saying is that, if you sort of go back to the beginning of the season when they lost City at home to Spurs predominantly played a counter-offensive game, right? Which is what they've done so well against City in recent years. So there's a chance that Spurs can, show some pride, potentially hurt City on the counter-attack. We know City obviously struggle against teams that counter-attack. So who knows?
Just going on that point that Middlesex have lost a lot of players since they played City earlier in the season. They've got no running power anymore. And then you've also got that mad South American has gone and injured himself as well at the back. So I'm not sure what version of Middlesex turns up, but I don't imagine they'll be taking anything from that game. So City assets all day long.
Well, I'm franking, so I hope they do, if he's still there.
But the two games I'm looking at, the first one is the Chelsea-West Ham. West Ham obviously been playing 2 games. They beat Spurs obviously 2 weeks ago, and they beat Sunderland this week, didn't they? So there's 2 in a row. So they've turned the corner a little bit. So coming to this game with a bit of frame of mind. Chelsea obviously at home. So it'd be interesting to sort of see. And Chelsea have been a little bit up and down. Just when you think you can sort of back them, they kind of throw in a bit of a stinker in. So I still think Chelsea are the team to back here in this game. But West Ham, you never know. They tend to sort of surprise every now and again. So, and the second game I'll look at is the very interesting confirmation game, Man United Fulham. This is the game where I'm seeing have Man United truly turned the corner. They have struggled in recent years, home to Brighton, home to Bournemouth, home to Fulham, where they've, historically lost points, conceded 2 or 3 goals in these games at home. Is this now really the turning point for United? And if it is, I think it'll be a clear signal in terms of assets to bring into your team. So I'll be watching this game closely to sort of see what version of United we see. And also in terms of who they play, because I think they played Dorgu on the wide position because they played against teams that dominate the ball. Because they're at home, will Cunha come to the team and be more offensive? We shall see. So it's interesting for two reasons for me.
I've got one of the historical ones that people look to, Liverpool versus Newcastle. Obviously, I won't bang the same drum, but Newcastle travelling, you know that I never really backed them for this. That said, the reality is that the Liverpool team that they're facing is a bit different. They try to control things with territory. Obviously, we know with Newcastle, they do things in moments. It's not going to be a fixture that's about volume. It's going to be about who converts pressure, right? And commits damage. So from the Liverpool game, Ekitike is obviously a good shout. We will go into captains at some point, I guess. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's a captain choice, but he's a central attacker and it's a box dominant role that he plays. I would imagine that because he's rested, and if we take into account that he was recently injured, that may be why he didn't start this weekend. But going into the next coming weeks, I would imagine he does. So he's still got strong shots in the box. He's got big chance involvement as well. He's a volume player. I've said that he's not an efficiency type player. He's a volume player, and I think volume at Anfield is always something that you can kind of rely on. And then obviously there's also verts that you can be looking at as well. But he's a high involvement creator. From Newcastle, I mean, yes, we could talk about the headband bandit, but from what you heard from me earlier in the episode, like he's not doing it for me. He's a minute's risk. I'm not seeing any kind of conversion. And also, if Bruno Guimaraes hasn't recovered and isn't playing for them, then I worry for them because watching them without him and relying on Joe Linton and Tonali was not a nice watch at all. Other game that I was looking at was Forest Palace. As I said, with regards to Palace, they're quite volatile at the moment, although they've got Munoz has just come back. He got some minutes today. It'd be interesting to see if Glasner reverts to type and just plays him constantly, no matter what, and doesn't drop him. I would imagine that it's going to be a low tempo game, low chaos, and that kind of thing. Usually set pieces or errors are going to be the thing that wins the day here. But again, like I said, for me, assets wise, is looking to see what Munoz does because I was trying to see. I don't know what the situation is with Mateta, whether he'll even be there by the time they play. Likewise, with Forest, there aren't particular assets that I look at to it. Obviously, there's Anderson that puts in the shift that he does every time. He's DEFCON monster. He does what he's doing. He's a bonus kind of player as well. But I'm also looking to try and see what does Aina do now that he is back and now that he's playing consistently. Because he's always been a fullback that I've admired and thought, yeah, actually he's quite good. He passes the eye test. It's now for me to see what's he doing data-wise. Am I seeing any kind of underlying figures that would say or suggest, yes, bring him in because he's cheap?
Since we're talking about the fixtures, I guess we should go into the captaincy choices or alternatives. If I'll start with myself. Obviously, we mentioned Haaland, or should I say City are playing Spurs away. Spurs have been very Spursy. Haaland's not been in form. Will he get form? Obviously, they've got a Champions League game before, so that'll be interesting to see beforehand. But in complete honesty, Haaland's probably going to be my captain. I've got some alternative choices though. If I was going to go against Haaland this week myself, it would be an Arsenal asset. I think it's important that we bounce back. I currently have Raya, Gabriel, and Saka. So obviously Raya's not going to be one of my picks. Do I do a cheeky one with Gabriel? We need a clean sheet and we ain't kept one in a while. So realistically, it'll be a good game, but it's away. So I think realistically, Saka will be my vice captain. And if I decide to go for Haaland again, Saka will be my captain. But at the moment, if I'm being completely honest, Saka's form hasn't been great, even though I do think he's due. If I'm sticking to my own formula of minutes, form and fixtures, it's even hard to say with Haaland because his form hasn't been good. But if I'm going to have to pick one of them, I'm going to go Haaland as it stands now. But they both haven't been informed, so it's a tricky one. And it could be a last minute switch to Saka if I get brave, depending on who starts in the Champions League and stuff like that. But anyway, I think those are the two that I would look at currently for my team.
I think you raise a good point in terms of the Champions League game. I think if we see Haaland score a goal or two in that game, get his confidence back, I think that would definitely secure him as a standout captain choice for the weekend coming up. I think Chelsea assets are another one to look out. If you hold in a João Pedro, for example, maybe, or maybe an Enzo, they're worth a sneaky look, I think, because West Ham are potentially great at the back. And I also would say that, another sort of game would be the unfashionable game of the weekend, but Sunderland-Burnley. I think Sunderland have been great at home all season long. I know they had a bad week against West Ham, but they're home against Burnley. Burnley have been poor on the road. It could be a game which, if you really want to be risky, potentially go for Michieli, someone who has potential getting a clean sheet and a return, right? So, yeah, I think it's one of those game weeks. If Haaland doesn't do well in midweek, there is an argument to suggest that there is another chance to go against the majority and take a risk.
Well, for me, captain's choice is always about the role security that they've got and the minutes that they can attain. And then obviously looking at any kind of upside that they've got. So that brings us squarely to looking at Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, he's returned in the past 2 game weeks. I think he's returned every game week since he's been back from injury. We know he's going to play 90 minutes. We know he's involved in most things that they do, and they're playing at home. Also, you have the scenario with Mbumo, who Carrick has played him in a mixture of places. So he's done him false 9 at some point. And as you said, Gus, João Pedro is one that you can look at. He was one I called last week for probably being able to score, which he did. But yeah, I guess that's where I'd be looking at captain-wise.
Has he got 2 in a row at the moment, João Pedro? He has, hasn't he?
Yeah, I believe so.
And a lot of people are going to be throwing in Chelsea players because it's the start of their run. So, I wouldn't be surprised if people go against Haaland again, depending on what happens this week, to be fair.
There's also the Villa boys, right? Watkins is fast becoming that asset again. But Rodgers is always that threat. Transition-wise, he's always that threat. And he's returned in the last couple of game weeks as well. He's obviously guaranteed to play the full 90. He never comes off. Assuming that he gets through the week, he could become an option. We know that Brentford are not as strong away from home as they are at home.
Watkins falls into that sort of Ekatike category of shot volume. But he has been in good form, to be fair.
Yeah, he's got a better conversion rate than Ekatike there. But that said, the real asset with Villa is Rodgers. That's the reality in terms of making things happen. But output-wise, you probably could start be looking at Watkins. But yeah, definitely there are some choices. I mean, this week, the reality was that 60% of the game went with Haaland, I think 65%, which ended up in the 7 million being unhappy. So it's clear that the tide is changing per se in terms of people starting to look at, can we do something to go against him? Because people are chasing upside.
It's mad because probably in the last, let's say, 8 game weeks, I think I've gone against Haaland 7 times. And every week I'm shook when I do it. And this week when I'm going to keep it real. And this week when I've done it, again, I paid off by a few points, but not as much as I wanted it to or needed it to. I go into another game week where it's like, well, Semenyo can't play in the Champions League again. Is he someone that I keep faith with if I want to go against Haaland? He's in form. He's got everything I look for, but I'm just always shook because of what Haaland can do. And as much as I know Saka can do what he can do as well, with Haaland is something more that pushes me. And I guess everyone captaining him, if I don't do it, the punishment I can receive from it. Where if someone captains Saka and it pays off, it's like, okay, but it's not the majority. So Semenyo is someone that I could be looking at too, just to throw that in there, because he could have got more this week. But in talking about game week 24, I guess this is the best place to end the show and, you know, get to the nitty-gritty of, am I going to be here again? Because I tell you now, if I start February like I've dealt with January, then just I'm not even going to say too much. Like I said, it was your birthday month, Guffs, and I've sort of ruined that. And February is slowly approaching. Well, slightly. I was thinking this week you're going to, you did your wild card. It didn't work out last week. Your team looks good on paper. And I thought Semenyo was a risk until obviously there was rumours. But I just thought, if he gets it, he gets it. It's his birthday week after all. Do you know what I mean? But all jokes aside, I'm just chatting. The reality is, it's 4 games in a row for me. I want to make it 5. I want to keep going. And the only way that I know that I'm progressing in general is if I'm winning here. If I'm not beating my own guys, then there's someone else in the league that's just getting further and further away from me. So my aim is to just win every week now. So at least at a minimum, I get the little bit of bragging rights here. But game week 24 will be here shortly. Days are flying. The season's more than halfway through. Obviously, I've got the viewers looking in, seeing what's been said early in the season and what's being said now. I guess Mr. I'm always humble is really humble these days. But I've been looking back at some old footage recently, and I'm not going to lie. The Guffs that was there isn't the Guffs that's here now. Fact. But we're not going to be reviewing and showing clips of
when
the
I
early
speak,
episodes.
when I speak, you want to shut me down. So that's why, I get a chance to speak. So, just,
Well, you could say whatever you want to say, but I'm saying I've looked at the earlier episodes, and how you were speaking, you're not speaking the same now. And that's just facts. You know it, I know it, Art knows it. But if anyone wants to see how we're speaking and you missed the first few episodes, go and check them out and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, on to game week 24.
Man's got an S in his chest. All right, cool.
I haven't got anything. I'm just saying facts, innit? Rafa, facts.
Man's gone too early. That's cool.
I ain't gone anywhere, bro. Do you know what I mean? You can't say I've gone too early. Man said I've gone too early. We're 24, we're 23 games in, innit?
Be careful of victory happening, bro. It's 23.
I'm not celebrating the victory, bro.
Relax.
I'm just looking at it for what it is. You ran your mouth at the beginning of the season.
I never ran no mouth.
You definitely did.
Facts.
That's what I said. I looked at it.
No, I speak facts.
No.
You're speaking facts.
No.
Yeah.
Everyone, we look at the episodes like I did, and you was running your mouth. You was full of yourself. No. And at the moment, you're talking about your you wasn't at the beginning.
I told you.
And that's cool. All right, cool. But either way, the league between us all, the triple captains, says you got 20 L's, 3 wins.
Glad you can count.
Well, I'm feeling sorry for you in it, because
you don't have to be
20 is a lot.
Focus on you, sir. Okay?
I am focused on me. I was focused on me. I was just pointing out that I've looked at some old episodes, and Mr. Humble isn't as humble as he says he was at the beginning. And then that's all I was saying. Then you told me focus on what I'm doing, and I am. I've won 4 game weeks in a row out of us, so I'm definitely focused on what I'm doing in it. So what are you talking about, bro? Like I was just stating a fact.
It's the hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy.
Okay, cool. Well, just remember what you said at the beginning of the season, and come back better next game week, and then you can talk all you want to talk, innit? You like this little bit. You say you like.
I'm always humble.
Okay, cool. Well, look at the early episodes, and you'll see that you wasn't.
No,
you're humble now because you got no choice. You're on 20 L's.
No.
Three
I
wins.
No.
You can.
I'm seeing
you can
someone
nothing.
who's talking a lot of grease right now because they're at the top, and that's great. You're allowed to, you know.
So
At the start of the
what are you
season,
moaning
at the start, I'm not running at all. I'm calm, my friend. All I'm saying is that you're doing well. Well done, but don't go too early. That's what I'm saying.
I'm fine, bro. I'm not going too early. I'm just reviewing where we are at this stage of the season, and I'm just saying it as it is. And it is what it is. It's 4 in a row to me. I'm aiming for 5.
Yeah, you said that 5 times now. You'll say 6 times.
Yeah. And you said you're humbled 100 times in every episode, but you weren't at the beginning, and I'm just letting you know that. And I'm letting you know that I'm going for 5, and I'm going to say it again, and let's see if I get it or not. Simple. Okay. Stop me. On that note, Triple Captains will be back next week.
Truth be told, when I wonder what the future holds.